So you're left with two options. Do you latch on to the marketing aspect of it, and do something like what Dylan or Colby does, right? Is become this WWE character to take advantage of the any publicity is good publicity, right? People hate me, great, they're going to watch. People love me, great, they're going to watch. And start to carve out a little bit of a piece of the pie for yourself because the organizations aren't doing it. And maybe that's a business reason. Maybe it's because it's hard to grow this business to what it is today. And it takes a lot of money. And so you don't allot some of that cash to the athletes when it really should be there and you want to put it there, but you can't because it's somewhere else, whatever. How do you as a fighter hold true to being yourself in those situations and avoiding the temptation to become that WWE guy? Because I'm sure it's got to be there, right? Like this, you see the writing on the wall that you could become something you're not to get more money.
Well, I could speak again from my personal experience. Well, I think I was in that situation in the like that last part of my career. I was on a two-fight losing streak and lost four of my last five. And keep in mind, I started out my career 8-0 undefeated, and now I just lost four out of my
Right.
last five. Won one, lost two now, and I remember my manager telling me, he's like, Steve, we need to give these guys more than, I know you knock guys out and you fight hard and you love America, but I need, and you're a family guy, but like, I need something more. And I was like,
This is your
this is my
manager at the
manager,
time?
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's me, man. And I don't want to create or conjure up something that's not me, for the
Right.
sake of staying with a promotion or selling more tickets or anything like that. Like, one thing I always, that always kind of stay with me is like you have to take ownership of every decision that you make. You're responsible for it. You can have it in your ear, your manager, this person, your coach, your parents are telling you do this and this, but if you have to live with it if you listen to that and make that decision. And you can't blame them saying, hey, they told me that's why I did it. No, you ultimately decide to do it yourself. And I knew with as I got older, as I got more mature, and especially as I met my wife and we had our own family, was that they're always going to be first and they're always going to be what's most important. I started and was already a professional fighter and already had multiple professional fights under my belt before I met my wife and had my son. So they came into this life, but I always knew when I got married and said my vows, when we had our son, and I looked at him in the first time in his eyes, and when I knew we were going to have our second child, I was going to have my daughter, I was like, they deserve and need the best family man there, not the best fighter. So it was my choice to be like, hey, could I, not even necessarily conjure up something and create more, but could I put more into getting out there and, for the
Right.
sake of this, and this, and doubling down? Yeah, I could have, but like you're talking, it's so hard to, make money in this sport. I always worked as a coach. This whole time I'm working as a coach and any other side job I can do. I was also a professional fighter and, doing other odd jobs like valeting cars and, working at machine shops, other things like just to make it, and yeah, so I always knew I had to, I always was doing something. So I just asked myself, like, could I pivot at this point? Like, was it worth it to me to pivot and to change? And I found that point where it was. It was like, uh, it's this whole like, especially when you're a fighter, it's as much as you have a team behind you. Like I had team clients, I was still just promoting myself, me, and I knew what it would take to be in the UFC or to be at the top level of the UFC Bellator and be the top guy, and what that takes, and what type of lifestyle that involves, and what type of commitment that involves, and what the sacrifices on your family. And for me, I decided it was not worth it to me. So I was just going to pivot and go full more on the coaching aspect and be more of a family man. And couldn't have been more happy with that decision for multiple reasons. But yeah, I mean, everyone's got to make that choice, and it's really tough. It's a really tough thing because it's really hard. Like I said, you're not making a lot of money, so there's not everyone's Conor McGregor, right? Or not everyone is the Diaz
Yeah.
brothers where they have this amazing thing that they push and they're great at it and they just go with it, whatever. I mean, it's tough, man.